Hello, everyone. Welcome to the last discussion of the Social Entrepreneurship Day 2022 on the topic resilience. I'm very pleased to this excellent conversation with excellent experts whom I will present shortly on the topic why resilience is important and how to make sure it is a part of every change. Today, through many discussions, presentations, we were able to look at the resilience from different angles. In this panel discussion, we will focus on social or societal resilience to various crises, and we'll try to answer the question how to increase or build resilience in peaceful times, in quiet times. What do we expect out of this discussion is one thing. After hearing or listening to our challenges and problems that we're going to raise, I hope our audience will come back with some social innovations or some solutions to bring to our societies. So now let me introduce excellent panelists. Dalia Bankauskaitė, we have our Dalia Bankauskaitė. She's an interdisciplinary expert in security policy, strategic communication, and political advisory. Dalia currently serves as a senior fellow at the Center for European Policy Analysis. LinkedIn says that she is Stratcoms plus Total Defense to strengthen resilience for the European frontiers, which is very to the topic. Also, we have Helen Nilsson, a director of Nordic Council of Ministers office in Lithuania, and she has been working in the field of international cooperation and development for more than 20 years, and also interested in interlinkage with corporate social responsibility. Please welcome. So we have Baltic and Nordic representation on the panel. However, to talk about resilience is probably wouldn't be appropriate if we don't mention Ukrainian context. The world witnesses determined and very strong social and collective resilience to, of Ukrainian people right from the beginning of the war. And even now, when Putin changed his tactics and massively in attacking on infrastructure to break Ukrainian civilians, or in order to bring panic and fear to weaken people's willingness to defend their country. Putin wants to brutalize the ordinary people's life and weaken this defense. So no matter how he tries, we look at the pictures and we read the media and we see that Ukrainians stand firmly and still defending. And sometimes it looks like that they block the reality or they have unlimited reservoir of strength. The last presentation by Oleg Pokalchuk, social psychologist, he described this situation from the ground and he reflected on the resilience. I know you both read or you heard his presentation, and I would like you to reflect on what he said and how do you feel and what can be learned from it. Dalia, maybe you would start.
Thank you for having me here. Yeah, Oleg's speech, it's a heavy one. It's really loaded and emotionally as well. We are not in the field. We are not in the war. We absolutely know what's happening. We perceive the threat and the risk, but at the same time, we are still not in the field, not in the front line. Oleg was talking about resilience and resistance, and at the same time, post-war syndromes, post-stress syndromes that are extremely serious and should be taken into account. I take his speech actually as a projection for the future, that reconstruction of Ukraine and Ukraine society is not only reconstruction of the state and its infrastructure. It's about individuals, their psychology, and as a community, individual community and society. So that would be I would say that that's what both professionals, experts on different fields should take into account, as well as us, civil society, take a very active part in approaching and really thinking of very business matter solutions for keeping post-syndrome, helping the people of Ukraine.
Thank you, Dalia. Helena, what are your thoughts about
I think
situation?
all our thoughts and hearts are with Oleg and the people of Ukraine. So, having said that, I will maybe bring up another angle of what he said, and that is that a resilient society doesn't start with the cries. It starts before the cries, so that we can go through the cries and survive and be even stronger on the, so to say, other side. I think that is something that we should focus on in our daily work, or in our daily individual responsibility to create a better society, to leave no one behind, and as well as listen to people, and so that they feel that they are part of building a resilient society.
It's if to follow, to catch Helen's words, resilience. We really talk about resilience and social resilience in a peacetime. In a critical crisis situation, God forbid, wartime, we talk about resistance. If there's no resilience, there's no resistance.
Maybe we will come back to that when we talk about this long-term perspective, but let's start with some intervention from your Dalia perspective, and then later with Helen. I know, Dalia, that you will be sharing recent or data from recent research on information security space and our readiness to increase our resilience. So I would give you up to 5 minutes, or 4 now, as we speak. So could you please share your main data or
Okay.
some takeouts?
Thank you, Sandra. Recently, the report was published of our research. I say our, Baltic states, Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania. We did the first assessment of societal resistance against disinformation. The report is a long one. It's worth reading, but I will take just to put it in a nutshell. The report started 2 years ago, so on the brink of the pandemic, COVID pandemic, and then we had to slow down. So we emerged with the assessment after the series of critical situations, crisis situation that Lithuania encountered, in particular, COVID, illegal migration organized by the by Lukashenko regime, then deterioration of diplomatic relations with China, because Lithuania opened a Taiwanese office in Vilnius. And at that time, 2021, we already started talking and predicting the energy crisis, that the prices will come up. So, Two points. One is that experts that were interviewed, it is based on semi-structured interviews in addition to other desk research. So experts, when assessing, talking prior to crisis and afterward, there are differences. There are differences in assessment. They lower their score of evaluation of resilience of the society. Different parameters we looked into. And I take it as a positive sign, because it means, first of all, they reflect. Experts, I mean those who have accumulated experience in business, in security, intelligence, research, civic society, media. So, and then another thing is that lessons learned, they understood the seriousness of crisis and actually took it much more, in a more responsible way. Another finding was that there was a gap between those who were working in state institutions engage in security, intelligence matters, in countering disinformation matters, Stratcom, and those who represent, I would say, as a group, society, civic society, NGO sector. Sandra, you were one of the interviewees, business people and academia. So actually that signaled that there should be this gap. If really to talk about Lithuanian resilience, this gap should be filled in, not bridged, but it should be narrowed. And there should be, resilience is a co-owned project. It's a teamwork as a society, multifaceted. So there should not be this kind of division of in bulbs and being locked into certain bubbles. And perhaps the third one, but maybe we will come back during our discussion, is the countering of disinformation. A lot is done. Institutional structures are good, legal structures are good. There's awareness, but countering disinformation by just debunking and fact-checking is not sufficient. It's not enough.
We will come back to this question, but could you just tell which country is the most resilient, if you can say?
This is
Out
what
of-
we, I would say that 3 Baltic states are in disinformation field are really much better prepared than the rest, than the West of the West, than the rest of Europe, or many of European countries, especially the West countries.
Okay, thank you. Helen, now I'm turning to you now. Could you please share your experience, what Nordic Council of Ministers in Lithuania, how they support social entrepreneurship in increasing resilience? Could you please share your experience and also some practical examples, if you
I
can?
will do so, and also take my 4 minutes to maybe also introduce the Nordic Council of Ministers. So we are the intergovernmental organization for the 5 Nordic countries, as well as the autonomous areas of Greenland, the Faroe Island, and Åland Island. And if we talk about our international cooperation, it's by far focusing the Nordic-Baltic cooperation. And we talk about development, we talk about growth, and we talk about, of course, shared values. We do a lot of projects in the field of social welfare, innovation, democracy, climate, of course, sustainability, but also the last year we have shifted a little bit, and we also talk about resilience, youth participation, and maybe also social resilience as such. And allow me to just mention that I had the pleasure to be in Oslo the other week, together with a delegation from the Baltic states, from youth delegation, to take part of the Nordic Youth Summit, where we only focused listening in the youth, what they had to say about youth participation, of course, but also crisis. Why didn't we ask them during the pandemic what to do and not, and so on and so forth. Extremely good reports and so on and so forth. As you said, we have the facts also in this case. My office, our office main target group is children and youth. And we do, of course, have a policy and strategy for doing that. But I would like to say that we work a lot on good living conditions and the opportunity to influence. And I think Nordic Youth Summit was one example of that, because we need to know, we as individuals and youth, as we focus on, need to know how they can react and act for us to have an active citizenship and to be in line with the resilience that we would like to achieve. But I would like to mention the NGO Vilits that we have been working together with the impact investment model. Now we talk about social or social entrepreneurship. and also with the Reach for Change and 100 good stories in our region. And I think one good goal or aim or maybe result of that was that we have this day that we do in a regular yearly way. And then next week we can also invite you to a conference for the final conference when we have talked about social finance. And I also would like to mention the Lithuanian Social Enterprise Association that have a yearly summit that we are also part of.
So through all these activities, you're trying to increase resilience
In
on the
4
ground.
minutes, yes.
Good. Okay. Dalia, in the crisis and shock situations, usually it's very hard to keep straight, rational mind because our emotions, and also Oleg also mentioning in his presentation, taking over, and it's very easy to be trapped in conspiracy theories. So as a strategic communication expert, could you please share your opinion? What should be done to avoid this kind of situation? What competences, maybe for different, as you said, different institution and different target audience should be built to avoid or how to diminish this threat or how to be resilient to disinformation, fake news, conspiracy theories?
First of all, when listening, I thought, have we mentioned or defined resilience? What we mean, we take it as an obvious thing and quite a popular word in circulation. So the way I define for myself resilience, and first of all, I talk, it applies for individual and for society or community, is ability to cope with a very stressful, usually critical situation, cope, adapt, and bounce back. That is, return as much as possible to the normal that before. And more important, not to be catch in accelerating this stress, not to engage in augmenting the critical situation. Another thing what I learned both from the report and then observing how my society coped with COVID, it's wrong to think that that if you are not organized, if you do not structure, nothing happens. That becomes a chaos. Society, individuals, community, and society are very capable, and they are always self-organized. Having said that, does not mean that the work is done. So it means that they are much better self-organized when they know what to do. They have to be informed before that. They have to be trained, and they really have to understand what is this stress. So the report, I keep referring to my report, our report, note, like experts note, that really society, especially civic society, NGO sector, was very active and proactive. But they lacked more information from the government, guidance, and really for individuals, guidance how to behave, how to channel these people. So actually, this is one of the answers, that there should be programs educating people, training in peacetime, building up this resilience, which is very many multifaceted exercise. The basic ones when talking about disinformation: check your information. First of all, know that you are under the stress, and when you know very well that under the stress you function differently when you are thinking in a relaxed way. So first of all, under the stress, person is led by intuition, which might be misleading. Then these involuntary reflex switches on, that you stop breathing and it means increasing your panic again. So again, you stop, even more intuitively you lead. Then your innate capacities will pop up because you know more, disciplinize yourself. So you either more, it depends on the character or how much you rational are, and then your reflex. also switches on. So it means when you know where you are vulnerable, because this is counterproductive for you. So in a peaceful time, when you have time to think, to analyze, you really know what's happening to you. You try to prevent these negative things. And then information source, check the source, reputation, trustworthiness of sources of information. These are, I would say, basics.
Just to build that, but why people are trapped sometimes? What is the reason behind what's in the peacetime? Also, we see that people are following conspiracy theories and increasing bubbles in that field.
Psychologists explain that we are biased. We are biased people. Human beings are biased and are influenced. All the technologists are talking about that. Also, many studies. So, knowing that we are biased, that our instinct, first of all, we think in a simplified way, white and black, good or bad. And we know that there are no like this. There are more factors, but we intend to do that. That instinct of immediately reacting and thinking about something negative, because since we left from the caveman area, we were very self-protecting, thinking about how to protect themselves. So always looking for negative signs and for signs that raises risks to our wealth, to our health, to our lives. So having these attitudes, if we let them go first without really analyzing, we are really very, very good target, easy target for manipulation, for manipulative techniques. COVID and conspiracy theories are the best example, because COVID is really exposes your life actually challenges. It's a threat to your life, to your survival, to your surrounding, or for somebody for actually anyway, life and living standards. So so you immediately open for conspiracy, for solutions which are not necessarily true.
Thank you. So there are also some thoughts for our audience to think how to diminish this, and how to work with our attitudes and instincts, and not to see black and white. So what should be done?
If you want really not to be, if if somebody wants to persuade you in a negative way, manipulate you, not persuade, manipulate you, they try to raise your to make you stressful, to stress about something, to be scared,
And panic.
yeah, and to be frightened.
Okay, Helen, in Lithuania we always compare with Nordic countries, and we always wish for welfare state that you have built and the way of life you live. We always do this comparison, and we also do that in resilience field too. So I would like now to turn to the topic of social resilience versus or plus social security. So trust and reliance on each other, as the Nordic experts quote, is the gold of the Nordic, right? And do you agree with this argument that social support is another critical variable that contributes to resilience? And could you also please share your experience on this long term, how you have succeeded in building that? And there is another argument that they say that resilience lies not on individual capacity that you were probably were talking mostly, but on the strong institutions. So could you please elaborate on that social security and social resilience, how it's connected or not?
I mean, first, maybe I could make a little bit of a joke. I only always thought you look at the Estonians, but maybe you also look at us Nordics, if I'm allowed to do that. But I mean, a little bit of reflections to you. I mean, we talk about it in general terms, right? But we also have to think about different generations, different vulnerability, socioeconomics, and so it's really just quite complex what we have discussed so far. So I think again I will just emphasize, please include everybody into this chance to be part of a good society. But for me, social resilience at least is very linked to security, but it's also linked to trust. But it's also about self-awareness. I think you linked it to mindfulness, positive relationships, and purpose for that. And to be able then to link that with social security, we need taxpayer, right? We need to get some kind of budget to be used in the best way. And if you trust the system, then you also, I think, are more willing to pay your tax because you see that you will gain something from it. And if we then would like to have a social resilience linked to the whole society, we need that budget line so that I think we trust that also it's okay if I don't get part of that pie or that cake, but it should go to the ones who need it because we are together building a good society for everybody. So I think this is so interlinked, but I do believe we need definitely social security. But of course, social resilience and trust is one very important ingredients to that.
Would you like to reflect on what Nordic and how far is Lithuania on this path?
Trust, yeah, we know that this is the gold, Nordic gold. It's trust, and this is an exceptional phenomenon for Nordic societies, a very strong brand, if I may say so. But it's really the core is trust. And trust is not done in one day. It's about it's building. So I would say that trust is its core in Lithuania. It's measured from different perspectives. It can be interpreted very well, but very few would argue that there's no value in it. I think that Lithuania is not only on the right path, but majority of the societies really understands what is the value of the trust, not because being naive, but because it is economically, it's beneficial. It's a win-win exercise for everyone to trust, not to cheat, to pay taxes, to share the solidarity, and in this way to increase your security, your living standards. At a higher level. So I think it's a growing exercise. And again, I'm benchmarking with other societies. That's why I'm so kind of confident, not confident that we are
on good path.
Yeah.
Yes, please do.
In my first part of my career, I started to work with the UN. And I felt so stupid. And I felt like I always used the word naive. No, but it's okay. I have talked to myself. I'm naive. I can live with this. But because I think UN is quite a tough organization to work on. But then I understood it has nothing to do with naivety. I just trusted. I wanted to trust my colleagues. Now I maybe sound naive again, but still, this is where I came from. And I came from a very trustful organization as SIDA to a quite competitive one in the UN.
Thank you for this sharing. So I always think when you think about good things, so I was how to have this social innovation that could increase our trust in each other. I don't know if there is any,
I think a very good example I have. I came here by taxi, and the taxi driver told that he drives at night, and his clients are a lot of millenniums, and they are drunken. They actually not register whether they get into the taxi or any other moving object, but all of them are very polite, always say good evening, thank you, and they address the driver as you in this respectful wu form or z. So I think it's a major sign or symptom of the change of the society.
Okay, I wanted to ask about this youth generation till at the end of our conversation, but I will turn our discussion a little bit upside down, and I will ask about this generation different because you already started talking about it, and this is my question. According to some data, 2/3 of young people, at least what I read, is believe in the context in the social media what they read and what their social bubbles are sharing or commenting. So do you see this positive or negative tendency? If the young generation is less resilient than to external domestic threats, and what are their social capacity to withstand if the contexts of their networks are mostly virtual, not real? Or maybe it's a new reality. Maybe they are more resilient, but we don't understand them because they live differently. So could you please touch upon this young generation and how resilient they could be or are to domestic and external threats? Who would like to start? Helen, maybe you. You work with youth and children, so could please give us good examples and we will then turn to negative.
I think when it comes to media literacy as such, it's very important to continue to educate both informal and formal education. But I think going back to you, no, I don't think we understand them. And I think we really need to have a dialogue here. We are different generations, and we need to understand what we need to do. And for that, we need to have a dialogue, and we also need to give them more power to make decisions, and that will cost, definitely, but I can't see any other way around it to have to change our structure, to invite young people to be part of the decisions, including within the media and media literacy as such. But it must be rather tough to be young today, to be bombarded, and also what I have understood, and this is also for us not to how do you meet your friends, and this is online very often now. I maybe also sounds like I don't know, but I may know, but I think I'm not the one to say. We need to have a young person here to express him or his opinion.
Okay.
Oh, I started a little bit higher, right?
Yes, this is great. Dale, would you be that so positive because you have also data? And,
Some data, some tendencies. Again, when we talk in a very generic way, so it's a risk of missing something very, very important. I think it's valid both for young generation Z, millennium, or whatever, that our algorithm locked us into certain bubbles, chambers. And algorithms guide us, and we are in the internet more and more, and that's what experts mention, fragmentation of the society, because being locked in one or another form. So being aware that the tricks are played, it's so important. Now, I think that. Talking about Lithuanian youth, it's about, we have, first of all, about society, Lithuanian society. We have to talk about media competences and information competences. And it's really, I mean it, it's not another buzzy word. We are still somehow lack competences in communication skills and knowledge, because we don't express ourselves. And we prefer to listen and to sit inside, and rather than to formulate our ideas. We're capable to understand that, but we are somehow modest or not having not enough competences. Because when you have to communicate properly, express yourself, you are open to get more information in order to build your argument. So I think this is where we have to start. Also, we lack competence, skills of working with information, processing. We learn, we adapt, we learn in paragraphs, and we deliver that, but we don't do interdisciplinary. We do not connect in this complex and complicated way, and we can't anymore afford to think linearly. Otherwise, we end in chaos. We have to be complex and complicated. So this is what's trained. These are competences we are talking about. Also, algorithms or this digital world offered a lot, I mean, huge progress, but also it cut our attention into 7 seconds spans. It means that we are not capable to go into. At the same time, we have a huge challenge to deliver in those 7 seconds something that somebody has to grasp. So these are the risks. And the core of it all, morale. I think the ethics, empathy, emotional intellect, empathy, and moral values important, because technologies made Europe, made the West and the world extremely rich, extremely capable, but totally messed up with morals and ethics. And of course, I have the war in mind. So these are to be balanced, and these are major challenges for our society.
Now, this is naturally brings to another question that I wanted to ask, and you know that it's going to be about media and media literacy. We will come back to Nordic because we already mentioned a bit, but I would like to come back to our Ukrainian situation. And some experts or majority experts already note that Ukrainian is winning information war. And one of the reason is that in media cohesiveness, right? When mass media channels and also social media with personal stories shared via different channels, TikToks, Telegram, whatever you say, what you name it, they bring the same narrative or similar narrative, transmit the same message. And that's how it somehow build or increase resilience or build trust in military actions and bring hope that Ukraine will win. We hope it will win. So could you, Dala, explore a bit about this? Why?
Communication.
Communicationally, how they succeeded in this, bringing us success, as you say, although we have all these algorithms, how they succeeded to have this common message, common narrative.
I think there will be tons of PhDs, thesis written, master thesis written on studying Ukrainian communication during the war. But yes, absolutely true. Ukrainian communication about the war, on the war, is nothing short of the miracle. It's exceptional. Somebody says that it is due to the technology. Yes, technology helps to be there on place and immediately multiply and reach out to different target groups. But if there's no content, it would be just nothing. It's just the noise they produce. They're successful because I don't want to go into very much into details, but you see really disciplinary and how they built. It's a good school how the narrative should be built. The narrative is about the war, how they fight this unjust invasion, and they are fighting for the freedom for their country and freedom of the world, of Europe, of everyone, democratic world. So they structure that, they build the architecture of different messages and stories, and you have this funny story of the courageous soldiers, the cruelty, the unjust, the enemies, how they look, how Russia's troops, without any respect to civilians, breaking any war law, any international law, that as and everything is very much hierarchical. It's very really
Oh, you think it's not bottom
coordinated.
up that also
It is,
Mhm.
but bottom up you go when you have an information infrastructure built, and then you can glue with your interpretations and initiatives. These are ripples,
Okay.
but you have this infrastructure,
Oh, that's
information infrastructure or communication infrastructure
Can I
there.
ask you, this is really not an expert here, but how important is the leader in this?
That's what I said is hierarchical. It's absolutely leadership is core. It's core. What I see or what I play next step, and this is where I would invite anybody to think and really to contribute that Ukraine needs another narrative, not only the war narrative, the war or of unjust. We have to tell this. I say already, tell the story of Ukraine that we know, not only fighting, but living the life, their culture, their history, their economy, their people. Just really answering so many questions that all of a sudden the world wants to know about Ukraine. And when saying the word Ukraine, we should not talk about Putin, but we really should talk about Ukraine and
Yeah,
Ukrainian
I think
people.
this is a great and wide topic that we could discuss. But let's come back to our resilience and media literacy that I would like to turn to you, Helen. And in most debates or discussions that I heard or listen when we talk about resilience, it usually comes to media literacy. And we have Finland, we have Nordic countries where you also systematically approach to this question. We had many programs, even you also, your council, Nordic Council of Ministers also invested in some programs in Lithuania, others. It's very fragmented and many stakeholders do media literacy in Lithuania. But what we hear, example, in Finland, you invest a lot and you from I don't know schools. So how you succeeded and what's the recommendation and why do you think people and children should read and how and what? Could you just because our time is running, but
Yes,
so
yes, there will
have
be. We have so many interesting, but I think in general, this is we. I think the general idea of investing is that we would like to continue to trust our media. We would like to trust. We would like to have our media that we
It's important.
trust,
Yes.
and therefore we invest to educate children, young people, adults. In the right now, it's also a very good target group, knowing that we find the information in other places. But there are also some kind of responsibility here of free. I mean, the free speech, and that is by tradition. I think. I mean, we celebrated that the 100 years off Finland very much when we celebrated the freedom of speech when it was when we had law linked to it. But I think also it is about to be it is about resilience in the end of the
yeah.
day, to be ready. And I
Who's
totally agree with you that you are better prepared if in the situation we are now with disinformation. We should definitely learn from you. We should not come here and teach anything if that is what we are doing. I don't think so. I think we today cooperate, but I think this tradition, we have new authorities responsible for this in Sweden, recently established. So it's apparently very easy to get the funding for it because we think this is extremely important.
Okay, thank you very much. Our time is running so quickly. I wanted to ask a most difficult and most provocative question, but I will skip it due to our time. So we will leave it for the next time about this polarization and division, how resilience might help to bridge this gap. But let's leave for another discussion. The last question is how to train our resilience muscle, if there is such a muscle. Could you just share what to do? And this is also an advice for our social entrepreneurs to think of some maybe innovations. So Dalia, I will start with you.
Things are done by doing. If you want to train resilience, so do it, train it. And since knowing that this is a holistic approach, so we have to see that institutional framework is working, that state institutions really engage with with society, civic society, and really see the partnerships building, education. I've just mentioned media literacy competences, very healthy, independent, transparent, and quality media. Social media or traditional media should be in place. Education and engagement. Engagement, really seeing, understanding that society makes the state.
On individual note,
On individual, when you are actually the element, you start from individual, but you are, as an individual, you still have to be media literate.
so you have to read, right?
You have to read.
Okay, let's read. Helen, the last words.
Yes,
The last,
the
recommendation.
second.
Yes.
I think this is really up to us now. Of course, we have also the ones in power, but for me, is to talk about it and to talk about democracy, trust, values every day, as you and me in the staircase.
Yes.
But I think also I will see more social entrepreneurs coming in, because when we talk about resilience, resilience is when a society takes next step.
Yes.
And for that we need innovation, we need to be fast, we need to be flexible. And what do we think about then? Social entrepreneurs.
Good. That's good to know. But I will lastly to quote Oleg Pokalchuk, because I asked him also to think of that in difficult times. And this is, I will quote: "Weak people start training when they see effectiveness of strong people. I think in a priority to consider active and strong and social groups, so leaders. Then they will be able to protect and teach weakened people, because helping the weak for a long time permit to them getting used to their status and produce the status begins. The strong must be taught to be stronger. The one thing is not to stop, but to move. When you stop, then your heart, it will be taught." So with these words, I would like to thank you all. And Dala, Helen, it was a great pleasure,
It's a pleasure.
and a
Thank
very
you,
interesting conversation.
Sandra.
And I hope our audience got some insights and advices to develop further. Thank you again, and see you in further discussion. Stay resilient.